Hey, welcome back to Mike the Baptist. Last week we were entertained here and out there by the preachers' wives. And I got to say, when they show up, it's a little different level of excitement than when the old dull guys are here. So the things they talk about are sometimes different than what the fellas talk about. But that's okay. We're all different. I've been accused of that myself, being different. And it's just big fun. I'm glad y'all are back.
Thank you.
Cootsy's back.
Yay.
Janet Coots is here, and glad to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And it's missed you all week. A week's a long time.
A week is a long time.
It's a long time, so it's good to see you
A lot
back.
could happen in a week.
And that you remembered how to get here.
Yeah. Hey, GPS is great sometimes.
GPS is great.
But next time I might not need it.
Yeah, a couple of times you drive somewhere, and I know how to get here now. I've been doing it long enough. I don't have to.
My husband calls me the human GPS sometimes.
Well, I think I know why he probably does, but it's just a guess. But do you give him directions when he's driving?
No, usually if I drive it, especially if I've driven
Yes.
more than once, like a couple of times, I usually don't have to do the GPS. And
gotcha.
He's
I'm that way
always
too.
putting it, yeah.
Yeah, I go somewhere
So the
one
joke
time.
was,
I would go somewhere in Atlanta one time, and I could go there the next time.
That's how we were in the back roads to Pigeon Forge.
Yeah.
Like we would go down and for family. Well, he'd be like going through all the traffic, and I'm like, turn here and then go here, and he goes, how do you remember?
It's my gift.
Well, yeah. You just after a while.
It.
Yeah, but now I can walk out of Walmart and forget where I parked.
I understand.
So there's that. Susan Jones is back.
Yes.
Hey, Susan.
Hello.
Good to see you back.
Thank you.
What happened this week? Anything?
It was
whole
crazy.
week?
Yeah.
So-
Lots happened.
Okay, I
Lots
believe
going
you.
on.
You don't have to go into
I didn't have
details.
to go to Nashville again since
Well,
the
that's
last
good.
time we recorded, so that was
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good because that takes a long time.
It is a long drive.
I mean, you had a week, but it still takes a long time to drive to
Yes, it
Nashville
does.
in traffic. Anyway, I'm glad you're back
Thank you.
and had such a thrilling week, it sounds like. Sarah Riccardi's also back. Good to
Yes.
have you.
Thank you.
And I see what you were talking about. You were talking a little bit ago. You were having to look through a microphone stand
Right,
at
yeah,
somebody.
it
Well,
kinda
now I'm
makes
looking.
you- Oh,
I
yeah.
want to
yeah,
go cross-eyed a little
I
bit.
see that
yeah.
now over here.
It's two of us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll work on that, but not right now. We have important things to get to right now, and
We don't
so
want to mess anything up.
yeah, we don't want to mess anything up. We're such a tight ship here.
Yep.
So anyway, last week in the middle of the program, when we got talking about stuff we found in the Bible, for some reason the stuff we found in the Bible was in 2 Kings.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is this week too.
Yes, it is.
So we'll see if it can be equally as thrilling as it was last week.
Yep.
The stuff in the Bible it actually is pretty interesting when you get to dig it in there. I think last week somebody said it's wilder than soap operas.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, folks.
That's
A
right.
lot more
It
entertaining.
is. Yes.
Before we go there, though, I like to have a little front porch visit. I like to just talk.
Okay.
There are those I have heard that may fast forward through some of this to try to get to the meat or something. I'm just feel sorry for those folks that
I know.
don't have enough time
Yeah.
just to sit down and relax.
Yeah.
And I feel personally, not to make any of those people feel bad, but I feel personally like you all are important enough that I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to listen to all of it.
Wow. All right.
Well, that and I have to be here, but if I weren't, I would still listen to all of
It was
it.
Oh, it's
so
like-
sweet until you said that last part.
I'm like, you're sitting beside me. How do you...
Thank you. Well, there's a little separation
You've
there.
got the buzzer.
Yes, they actually,
Buzzer.
if you've never been involved in this program before, we have a buzzer here, and the reason we have a buzzer is the part of the intent of Mike the Baptist is to turn all this faith and Christian talk and all this stuff into normal talk for people who aren't real churchy.
Right.
So the buzzer is here. So if somebody uses a very churchy phrase, I have a keen radar for churchy phrases, and I will. Sounds like that. I'll hit it. It's a buzzer. Now, on our last episode, I actually put it between Sarah and I. She wanted to try it out, and so I had kept. Couldn't see it when the camera wasn't over here. I kept slapping her hand. She got a little carried away. But now it's between Coonsey and myself. I'm a little frightened, but it is what it is. So you have
I don't know why.
full control that if you need it. But anyway, long story short, if it gets too churchy, we'll buzz it and bring it back down
All right.
to reality. You know, on the front porch visit, we talked last week about grandparents and stuff. Real nice, serious conversation. I don't want to be too serious this time if I keep from it. And we briefly talked about, I thought it would be interesting to hear about terrible cooking experiences. Because women are prone to cook from time to time. I cook myself. I'm not a woman, but I cook. Oh, matter of fact, Susan, I've been sewing the elastic in my underwear because, well, no, look. No, wait. But you sew.
Yes.
You're a seamstress.
Oh,
I should have asked you in the green room, but it's on my mind. I need to know.
We're going to go now. Okay.
The elastic is so old.
Yes.
That it's just terribly loose.
Yes.
But I figured out the other day that I could fold it over itself 2 or 3 times in the back and sew 2 or 3 seams in it, and I can get some more years out of it.
Okay.
But my question is, I've been working on that project.
I think you just need to get some
I
new
know.
ones.
Thinking is
You know what we're getting here for Christmas.
These are fine. I just the elastics are so. But look, my question is, the spool of thread up on that thing at top.
Yes.
When I get to sew and about halfway into sewing something, it gets to jumping around, and then the thread comes off the spool and wraps around the bottom of that thing, and then it breaks.
Yes.
Do you know what causes that?
I would say you have your tension set wrong. Either that or you don't have it threaded properly.
You don't have the right
through the
kind of
machine.
tension.
There's a tension setting on your machine.
I mess with it sometimes. I don't really know.
Well, that's probably what you do.
Because I turn it all the way down, it does it. And I turn it all the way up, and it does it.
Best rule of thumb is kind of put it sort of in the middle. That's pretty safe.
In the middle.
In the middle of the dial. Yeah, because one way is probably too tight and one way is too loose. And it has to do with the fabric you're using. But I would say, just for somebody just starting to sew, just kind of leave it in the middle. That's normally pretty safe. Unless you're just doing
My problem is I've been
crazy.
sewing for years. I sew stuff all the time, but it takes so long because my thread keeps breaking.
Yeah. It's got something to do, I would guess, with your tension. I mean, there's a lot of things that could cause that to happen, but that would be the easy answer.
I'll check on that first.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
to know.
Thanks.
Yeah, you bet.
I would have waited, but I would have forgotten, and then I need to know this.
Okay.
Because I need to finish that project.
Yeah,
There you
underwear
go.
is important.
Yes,
Well, it is.
that's
I think
very
it's
important.
important.
I'm thinking you could buy new pairs before what
Yeah,
you
I'm
spend in
thinking-
elastic.
I'm turning
It's
into
just-
a crazy old man now. I'm starting to save
I
everything.
think you're right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a little
It's your
scary.
grandpa, right?
I'm a grandpa
Oh,
now.
grandpa.
I'm sage.
Okay.
Say,
So, is that a good topic for y'all to talk about, like cooking
Underwear?
disaster? No.
I'm like,
We think we covered
I don't
that.
think so.
We've covered that one. I'm thinking like cooking
hard to
disasters.
transition
yeah,
from
it's
that,
like, what are we
Michael.
talking about now?
Now look, if you want to, we can change that. If you don't have a particular cooking disaster, I think disasters at family gatherings are funny too. A lot of the times. Oh, let's just go there.
That could be dangerous.
Well, I think we kind of did this with the men
Trying to
here
think of what I
recently
can
too.
talk about.
Right, that's what I don't know.
So anyway, well, let's just start there. You select yourself.
Which one?
Yes, and nobody looks ready.
I do not want to go first.
Sarah does not want to go first.
No.
Okay, I'll
Susan,
start. Yeah.
Susan just had this look.
Yeah, I'll
If
just,
you're not watching the video, I got to explain this. She had this look where you turn your head sideways, and your eyes are kind of like, when you're real sleepy. It's that look that, okay, I know one, but I don't want to have to tell this.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Do I really want to go
Yeah,
there?
Yeah.
can't
Okay,
say
Susan.
that one.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the cooking.
Okay.
I'm gonna play it safe
Okay.
because I think the other story that came to mind, I'm just not gonna tell that on air. Yeah,
on that.
yeah, I love my family too much. We'll just leave that alone. Cooking disasters. I mean, HD shared one.
He did.
One week about when we were dating, and I had made fried chicken, and my grandmother always made my nanny. We talked about last week. She made this wonderful fried chicken. I had a recipe, and I just didn't realize that just because it was brown and crispy on the outside I thought that meant it was done on the inside, but apparently not. Because it looks great on the outside, and then apparently you're supposed to let it continue to cook once you get it crusted really good, and I didn't, and it was raw, and we bit into it. And I also, that same escapade, I had made a lemon meringue pie. That was his favorite pie. I made him a lemon meringue, and it looked so pretty. I mean, I got the little peaks and everything, but somehow when it cooked, it didn't solidify the pie part, the yellow, the lemon part, and we cut into it and it was like water running. And I would like to say that since then I've gotten much better with my cooking skills, but that would not be true. It's just that is not my strength. My grandmother was a wonderful cook, and she just could do it. Didn't need recipes and stuff. My grandmother never taught my mom to cook. And so when my mom got married, she had no idea what she was doing, and it was a whole catastrophe for years. And she finally, got enough help and figured some things out, but that really wasn't her expertise either. And so then it passed on to me, and it's passed to Marie, I think. Like, you give me a recipe, we just kind of have to have recipes. We don't do well without that. I mean, I can follow a recipe, that's no big deal, but I burned the bread. That's a running joke at my house. I always burn the bread. Currently, we're trying to be healthier and not do a lot of carbs, so I'm not cooking bread, so that saves on the ribbing mom. But I think my main problem is when I'm cooking, I try and do too many things at once. So I'll have something going here, and I'll think, I can run and throw in a load of laundry while this is finishing, and I'll get distracted. And then next thing I know, I folded 2 loads and put a load in, and I've dusted some furniture, and the bread's still in the oven. And then since COVID, I don't have a sense of smell, and so even if if it's burning,
you can't tell
I don't smell it burning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, we have lots of stories of Mom burning various things.
So it's like a family
They
thing.
just rag on me. Yeah. So, and my son is married, our middle son, and his wife is a great cook, and her mom's a great cook. And so they're really good at they use recipes, I think, sometimes, but a lot of it, they just know how to cook. And her mom did a great job teaching her, and she's a fabulous cook. And so he likes to tell me how much he's enjoying being married to her and not having the bread burned and having all these great meals. So,
that's so sweet.
Yeah. So, I cook to survive. And we have survived. We're not very plump, probably because of my cooking.
But you're alive.
So that's been okay.
So,
but we are alive, and we've survived. But I'm just not. No, there's lots of issues with my cooking over the years.
There are people that just don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even cooked last night. She walked in the house from being over here, and he walked in and he goes, "What did you cook?" And I had cooked salmon and broccoli and carrots.
Yes.
Well,
did you burn it?
And he...
It will smell.
No, but I thought he was going to be home
salmon
sooner than he was, and so I was trying to keep it warm in the oven, and so
it smelled like salmon.
So you had the whole house
and
kind
broccoli.
That's
Of course,
Like
I
a
didn't
fart
smell
in a
it, so it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad, but he ate most of it. But
We eat a lot of
Bless him.
salmon and broccoli. We
Yeah.
broil.
Yeah.
Did you broil the salmon? We broil it.
I actually, I air fried it. I put the salmon in the air fryer. It's great in an air fryer.
We haven't tried one of those. We
It
keep
was-
hearing
yes.
they're supposed to be healthy or something, but
Yes, it's great. It does it perfect. And French fries, it'll do perfect.
Really?
I love salmon in an air fryer is
but,
really great.
But do you get the grease taste? Well, so what's the point?
Because you're not supposed to have the grease.
I
taste,
know
but
you're
it's
not
trying
supposed to,
be
but
healthy.
But
But
I
the
don't.
broccoli was overdone because it had been in there keeping warm, so it was kind of mush.
Yeah.
I had roasted it in the oven with the carrots.
Did he eat it?
So he ate most of it. He's a trooper. He's
Yeah.
just learned over the years that he's pretty tough. And honestly, I'm a better cook than his mom was, and she'll agree to that. So he's moved up a little bit, but it's still not good. So
Moved
yeah,
up the ladder
my
a little.
cooking's kind of a train wreck. So there you go, girls. I set the bar low.
Okay, so just
right
can
there with
build
you,
from
Susan.
It
there.
is what it is.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks,
like-
Janet.
I'm
Janet
right
can't
there
cook
with you.
either.
Nope.
Who's up?
I'll let you go.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
These are not good topics for me. So
But
I'm
they're
sure
good
I've
for us because they're so entertaining.
I'm sure I've messed up cooking before. I'm sure I've done
Keep
that.
swiveling yourself out of view over there. Just see yourself over there.
I don't like looking at myself.
Well, don't look at
Don't
yourself.
remind me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Am I swivel-less?
Well, yeah, so you can see yourself over
Do you
there.
want me to
Just-
shrinkle?
I'll edit a little
Shrinkle?
bit. of that. Oh, now I can't
Shrinkle?
take it out. I got to leave that
We're
word in there.
shrinkling away.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sure I've messed up cooking, but I like to cook.
Yes.
It's kind of therapeutic for me.
Yeah, you've
When I
talked
have
before about
time-
cooking.
When I have time. If I don't have time, then it's not fun, right? But if you have time, it's kind of therapy for me. I grew up, my mom cooked all the time, and so it was like that creating a memory thing to be in the kitchen together. So I love when my girls help.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
we want to know about a fiasco. I mean, Susan,
Yeah.
she set the bar for us. So
She did. I
gotta tell it.
I can't beat raw chicken. I think some things I block out of
that's
my
so
memory
sad.
because I don't want to remember them. Has
H
Jason
reminds me of
mentioned
raw
anything?
Wisely, no.
No, wisely, no.
He hasn't. No, he hasn't really mentioned anything. So look,
He would eat anything though. Jason would eat anything.
well,
that
he's
I
talked
made.
in here about stuff he's
Yeah,
eaten.
like
and-
he would. It
He had a
wouldn't matter.
tarantula.
He had a tarantula.
Oh,
he would.
anything.
He would eat anything. It doesn't matter. And he never. Yeah, he would eat anything.
So you may have to transition into something funny that happened at a family gathering without naming names. You don't have to name names.
And it could be whenever.
If you
Yeah,
can
like-
disguise it, just a little bit.
when you're
Because I know
little or-
in your family,
Yeah, we have some weird.
yes,
wonderful
things have to happen
people.
over there.
Yeah.
So,
Some wonderful people.
yeah. That's part of what this part of this is about, is putting you on the spot in some fashion.
The only thing I can think of is an example that is horribly embarrassing to myself.
Perfect.
But it's not a.
Exactly what we're
It's
looking
not
for.
a gathering. It just happened inter-family connections.
Yeah.
But I was pregnant with Zoe, and I was highly hormonal, right? So I usually am
Is that
very,
same as moody? Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
usually very kind of even-keeled, right? I'm pretty, at least with other people, pretty patient, usually. So I have a family member that would send emails all the time, and it's kind of like the, am I swiveling out?
I don't know. You can. Oh,
It's kind
no,
of
no.
like, I
You're
don't want
okay.
to look at myself.
Oh, well, I'll look. You're okay.
Okay. It's kind of, always the emails that would go around, like the end of the world. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like hyper, like it's the end of the world. This is
Doomsday.
happening. Doomsday.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I would get them things to watch out for. There's people that are going around parking lots and they're marking cars, that kind of thing.
okay.
And so I would get these in my head. It felt like all the time. And I got one, and I was at work at the time, and I was really mad. I was just mad that I got it. So I forwarded it to Jason, and I just, oh, this is horrible. I hate when I get this. I just can't even. And then I realized when I got a reply that I had sent it to the person.
You replied.
Instead of to Jason.
And I was mortified.
Oh yeah,
It was so
this is
embarrassing.
perfect. This is perfect.
Did you get any more?
Well,
Solve
But
the
then for
problem.
Christmas that year, I got a praying the scripture book from the person. So maybe that was their way of
that's pretty good.
telling me to
That's
love Jesus more. I don't know. Yeah, it was horrible. It's still one of those things that you look back and you just feel utterly horrible.
I'm just going to say,
Utterly horrible. So
And
the
I'm
moral
just-
of the
yeah.
story: do not ever respond in emotion to a text message.
no,
Or
email.
an email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely don't do anything while you're like at work, right? Dealing with other stuff. You
And
don't
look
multitask.
around before you say things,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
in case
Yes.
they're right there.
Look
you know.
around. Yes. It's horrible. Thank you for making me relive
Oh,
that.
you're so welcome. So many people are going to be thankful that you went ahead.
Sarah
and
did something bad.
stop that.
Now all the kids that I teach on Sunday morning are gonna go, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Kinda
Yeah, you're about to get some. You're about to get some
Like,
strange
okay.
emails. It's just a guess, but
yeah.
okay, Kunzi,
Yeah.
you see how this works now.
I know. We've had one story of each.
Yeah.
It's like, which way do I go with it?
Just spill it all. I mean, at this point,
You just talk about it all,
just
huh?
roll it out there. Yeah, just don't mention names.
Oh, no. Mm-mm. I have had a cooking experience just recently, though.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean,
We, well, the backstory is we had gotten deer meat from one of our church members. And so when you cooked it, you had to season it, quite a bit differently than you do hamburger meat. Well, since we've been here and we've used our deer meat up, I was cooking with hamburger meat, fixing a dish, and I was like, oh, I need to put some seasoning in it. And I made it way too salty. I mean, it was just... But Michael ate it with like a trooper. I was just like...
another
And
trooper here.
finally, I looked at him. I said, honey, you do not have to eat this. Oh, it's fun. No, it's not. No.
Jason would be like, this cost, $10. I'm gonna eat it. No.
It's not. No, it was not okay. But yeah, that was...
And sometimes you're just like, it's bad.
It's bad. I mean, as soon as you
I'm
took the
throwing it
bite,
out.
it was just like,
It should be like, no, it's okay.
well, that's kind of how, yeah. No, it's not okay. And you can tell me it's not okay.
What do you cook when you cook? I mean, do you have these? Most people have these 3 or 4 things they cook. Salmon and broccoli we cook pretty often because it's quick.
Yeah.
It's really always
healthy.
good.
Yeah.
We do
We
that.
use salmon every once in a while, but I don't. I'll do broccoli sometimes, but mine won't touch broccoli. It's green.
He
Interesting.
doesn't eat green vegetables.
He doesn't eat
everyone-
vegetables.
Period.
Really?
Not really. No.
Coon-
Everyone
doesn't
knows
eat
what to get
vegetables?
him
No.
for Christmas.
Not unless it's
Vegetables.
ketchup form, salsa form,
A pureed vegetable.
olives.
I bet I could get him to eat collard greens.
Good luck.
If you do,
You should do that on a.
I
on an
need to be
episode.
here for that.
I will do that
What?
because I have made
do
I
it
have
on an
made
episode,
collard
the
green
guys.
converts that did not like greens at all. Secret
collard
recipe.
greens. I grew up with
I'll
collard
make us
greens.
some sometime.
But yeah.
Well, I can't tell you. It wouldn't be a secret anymore. See how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
You can make extra, send some home with Jason when you do that.
We need
Actually,
to have a tasting at our next Preacher's Wife.
You know,
Yeah, apparently
look,
you guys had some tasting on the.
Yeah, cinnamon rolls.
Yeah,
What's up with
cinnamon
that?
rolls.
I have been.
Where are the
I have been
cinnamon
working it.
Okay.
Most every episode, I put out a plea to
Yeah.
look. I mean, we will take your whatever you make, and if it's good,
I don't
well,
want the weird stuff off the smoker.
look, we're Christian people. If it's not good, we can't lie. We just have to
have
tell
to
you
tell
if
you.
it tastes like hooey, it tastes like hooey. So
Sometimes this will
needs to
tell
go to
it
the dung
before.
gate.
sometimes, yeah, bring it in through the dung gate. But no, I've been working it. I've been trying to get people to bring us stuff to
Yeah,
review.
yeah.
So actually, I think I'm talking to the right crowd
Okay.
Yes.
because you all will get a lot of people that listen to you
Maybe so.
and follow up. Whereas,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
guys
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the plea again. By the way, we have a new feature at Mike the Baptist. We have an email address. If you want to send us a comment
Yeah.
I saw
or a
that.
question
Nice.
about anybody that
Yeah.
shows up here, these ladies, the guys, any guests, myself, send us an email. Comments at mikethebaptist.com. Also at that email address, you can send us the item that you would like for us to review.
Okay.
Tell us what it is, and then we'll make arrangements to get it up here, and we'll review it.
Yep.
And if it's good, man, we will brag on it, and we sure will. Just quickly, you were talking about Jason said if it costs money or something, he's going to eat it.
Yeah.
So the guys were in here the other day, and we were talking in the green room about somewhere. One of those guys was at Jason at a hamburger place, and they said that he was studying the menu, and he was trying to figure out if there's a way he could save a little bit of money by
Yeah.
ordering a single, but then asking them to put an extra patty on it. And so they said he was really doing all this figuring. He's trying to work his angle, and then the lady comes up the counter, and so they said that Jason asked him, "Now, what's the difference in a single and a double?" And the lady said, deadpan, "The single has 1 piece of meat, the double has 2."
Yep.
Something like that. But
Yeah.
they said he worked so hard trying to figure out how to work that angle.
Yeah. Yep. That's what he does.
That was a great story. It's good to know that, because if I'm ever out with him somewhere now,
Now you know.
I will
Nice.
get to the people behind the counter first, and we'll have some fun with Jason
go.
Riccardi with all those R's and I's. Thank you for being brave enough to step up and tell stories that people may come back and give you a hard time about.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Crossing your fingers. Well, okay, we're going to take a quick break, come back, talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
Do you listen to or watch Mike the Baptist? Do you wear clothes? If so, we've got some great news. T-shirts and hoodies are now available at mikethebaptist.com. Just visit mikethebaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and you'll find high-quality tees, hoodies, and even onesies for the babies in a variety of colors, all with the Mike the Baptist logo and familiar sayings from the program. Mike the Baptist is a true labor of love. No one has to pay to listen or watch the program, but Mike and the crew have to eat. So a portion of each sale of a t-shirt or hoodie goes to Mike's local Kroger, Walmart, or electric utility. It's kind of simple like that. In order to keep the program free, we have to generate a bit of income to pay the bills. When you make a purchase, you're not only doing the world a favor by wearing clothes, you're helping keep the messages of Mike the Baptist on the air. Thanks for helping out, and thanks so much for being involved in spreading the good news. What a great planet.
Hey, we're back. If you could just be in the green room when we take a break, it's so interesting. All the things you ever wanted to know about Preacher's Wives, but were afraid to ask, you can't ask. So, but we talk about them in the green room. Yeah, you don't want to know.
Be careful, you might get an answer.
It's just best to leave that where it is. Hey, we're going to turn it over to the Preacher's Wives right now, talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
Yeah, so this week we are in 2 Kings and chapter 7 is kind of where we're starting. So, yeah, 2 Kings is full of a lot of fun stuff,
Lots
right?
of crazy stuff.
Yep, lots of crazy stuff.
Craziness.
Yes.
And we're talking about Elisha, right? I'm so worried that you're going to hit that.
No, not for
If
Elisha.
I'm talking about the Bible, it's okay that I use the Bible words, right? If
Oh,
they're
yeah.
in the
No, it's
Bible.
phrases like,
She's
what's that
guarding it.
phrase people have been using for a few years? Intentional.
Intentional.
I'll
yeah.
buzz the heck out of that because it's just, and that's not a churchy
just
phrase, but
irritates you, that
it's
phrase?
overused. I beg your pardon?
It irritates you. Don't like intentional.
Well, my job is to be a rebel. So
Okay.
anything that kind of,
Good to know.
yeah. Carry
Good to
on.
know.
That's good enough.
Yeah, so we have Elisha, right? And he, this kind of picks up and it just tells some really interesting stories throughout the next 6 chapters of 2 Kings. And, not when the Bible talks about stuff, right, ladies? Like, it can talk about some pretty crazy stuff in here. And it's an account, like you said, Susan, right? You want to remind us what you said last week about
That was a week ago. I don't remember.
7 days is a long time.
about how it's proof that the Bible is
yeah, I
unique, right? Because of
Yes.
how it, yeah.
I feel like it just legitimizes scripture because if you wanted to make a pretty story for people to believe, you would try and portray everyone as perfect
Oh,
and
yeah.
never falling away from God and not having sin. You would portray them in that light, and this is does not do that at all. It tells the down and dirty on people
Yeah.
that you just don't want to know. Yeah,
Yeah,
But
right?
you find out anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
that you
God knows
find
it.
out.
Yep,
So, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
might
that
as
you
well put
find
it out
out.
there.
Yeah, and it helps us feel real and realize that we have the same struggle. Yeah.
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 But otherwise, you wouldn't tell all that in your family tree like we do. We're not telling the embarrassing
Like the
family
stories.
stories.
Exactly.
We'll leave that. Not
Decide to
everybody. They
skip
throw their
that.
name out there.
They do.
Everything.
Which, by the way, is what makes the Bible more believable.
That's what
It
I'm.
is.
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely.
Because it's,
Because
Yeah.
man wouldn't do that.
Right.
no,
Man
man
would
would
leave the ugly out.
man would make it real pretty.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Make it sellable.
Because you look at other religious books, right?
Yeah.
And they were written typically by one person about themselves, right? And they made themselves look really good.
Absolutely.
So the Bible doesn't do that.
Yeah.
The Bible's many authors. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes
so I
it
love
comfortable reading.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can relate, right? So when we're digging in, even if you're not, you didn't grow up in church or church isn't, your normal hangout place or whatever, the thing to always ask is just how can I relate to whatever is going on, right? What can I pull out of here? Because that's why God put it in there. It's always about his kind of pursuit of revealing who he is, right? Even through the crazy, which this week, some pretty crazy stuff.
Definitely lots of crazy stuff.
Right. So let's just dive right in.
Let's go to Crazy Town,
to
Sarah.
Jehu, which I didn't write down the chapters, but Jehu was a guy that, so somebody, did we talk about Jezebel last
No, we didn't
week
talk
at
about
all?
her yet.
No.
So you all
that's-
probably have
this-
heard the name, right? Even if you're not
Jezebel?
in church. You've heard
Jezebel.
Yes,
Jezebel
of
before.
course.
Yeah.
And let me
Side
just say
note.
this: there was actually somebody. Maybe this is your side note. Somebody actually named their child Jezebel. I'm
sorry.
And I was like, okay, apparently you have zero idea of scripture because anything that's like naming your
No,
child
that's-
Lucifer.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't.
you don't
do
name
that.
a girl
No.
Jezebel because she was horrible.
She was horrible.
She was horrible.
Not
So-
unless you're asking
nasty.
for,
yeah, for her to be.
issues.
nasty
Yeah.
and horrible.
Yeah, so just for those listeners out there, never name your
Don't name
daughter
her.
Jezebel.
Don't do
okay?
it.
Okay, Sarah, continue.
Don't do it.
Well,
She's
we
a bad
had-
chick. She's one of those bad chicks.
Bad
we
chick.
talked
Bad
about
chick in the
last week.
Bible.
She was a bad chick in the Bible.
She was a bad chick in the Bible. So I think I'm having this memory, and I don't know, Jason may correct me, right? But I feel like like our oldest daughter, Zoe, we got this cat. You know, people love to like bring over kittens in front of your kids and be like, oh,
Yeah.
don't you need to take this home, right? So we had this kitten, and she was a barn cat, so she was not friendly, right? I mean, she was kind of crazy. And Zoe named her Jezebel, I'm pretty sure was the name. And we kept trying to be like, no, that's not a good name. But then as we knew the cat, we were like, oh, well, it kind of
maybe it is
the cat. Kind of crazy, yeah. She would
crazy.
like run up the walls and scratch. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. But Jezebel, you know, Jezebel is the queen, right? She's married to Ahab. And they both die, which is a whole interesting scenario.
One of those stories.
Too, one of those great stories. And part of what, you know, they rebelled from the Lord, right? And so Susan shared last week about how you kind of see this history of we're listening to the Lord, we're obeying the Lord, then no, we're going to turn from him, then we're going to listen, then we're going to turn. And they were part of the ones that did not listen, and they were really, really horribly evil, like child sacrifice, all that kind of stuff. I mean, horribly evil people. And so they both died, and then God said, I'm going to wipe out everybody. Like, there's not going to be any one of your kids, because, you know, kings, like, had 1 million wives, right? So they had 1 million kids. Not really, but they had a lot of kids.
Kind of felt that way.
And he said, I'm going to wipe out everybody because you all are so evil, so your whole line is going to be gone. And then he raises up this guy, Jehu, to come into power, and he comes into power, and he essentially kills all the kids of Ahab.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess some of them were Jezebels.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, he's like, I think he got a little pleasure out of that. I mean, it wasn't, I don't know. How did you guys read that part of scripture? Is that too much of an open question maybe? But you know, he kind of, it kind of seemed like he enjoyed.
Well, I think he started out with the good
get to-
intention,
yeah.
which a lot of
Yeah.
us can do this. I think he started out with good intentions, following the Lord, because the Lord did ask him to do that. That was his assignment. So he wasn't wrong when he started, but then I think he kind of got caught up in it and started doing it a little more for his
Got a little
gain.
carried away.
Yeah, for his
than
pleasure and his
from what
glory
God asked him to do.
than God's glory.
Yeah.
Kind of like Gehazi, right? He shifted his focus
shifted,
a little
yeah.
bit.
His heart
his
just
focus.
wasn't totally focused on who God was and what God's
Yeah.
purpose was in getting rid of.
Yeah.
I think he was maybe doing it more for his own gain and power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, now I'm getting all this power.
Yeah.
Right.
But, you know, I think a good thing to remember about Jehu as well is that God still used him. I mean, do you think God knew his heart? Would God have known his heart
Yeah.
before he ever chose him?
I mean, right?
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. And he did.
So why would
Yeah.
you think God would go ahead and choose him even knowing that about him?
I know. Does it give, like, it's because it's kind of confusing. Like, my human brain wants to go
Yeah.
when I read stuff like that, right?
Well, I'm confused. Can you start the story over?
So-
Give a brief story. The story
The story.
of
So
where we are.
So Elisha essentially goes to Jehu, right, and says, the Lord wants you to annihilate basically all of Ahab's descendants.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Ahab and Jezebel, because
and
they were bad,
Jezebel,
evil
yes.
people,
Evil
brought all
people.
these pagan
Okay. So
things in.
so Nahu just wanted them eliminated.
Yeah.
Is
So
this
Well,
correct?
God did.
God did.
Well, but
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then Jehu goes and he does that.
Okay.
Right. But in process of doing that, he kind of takes it a little too far.
He
So
starts to enjoy it.
he doesn't
Okay,
just
so
stop
he
at the
Like we said, he got carried away.
got carried
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He
And so
starts
that's
doing it
where
for
we
his
are in the
glory.
story,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So the
Right.
question was,
Yeah, why would God? God knew that about his heart, that
Right,
his heart
that he
wasn't
would get
totally
carried
focused
away.
on God. Why?
Yeah.
But God used him for His purpose,
gotcha.
which is always holy and righteous. Why would God use him, and why does He? Do we think He does use people that are not, that are maybe evil, or that are for certainly not totally focused on God? Do we think He uses them to complete His will?
I have a
All the
theory about
time.
this.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about our theory.
mean,
what's our?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we have people in positions all the time, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, but then we're reminded, okay, God put that person there for a reason. We may never see that reason, but there's a reason there, and it may to be able to maybe build our character of, okay, we still need to support this person even though I don't agree with their thoughts or, their opinions, but still maybe the position they're in, we have to respect that. And so.
Okay.
I have a theory. This conversation has come up similar to this in my world for about a month now in different forms. I always like to get deep in predestination stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
The way I understand this, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, please, because C.S. Lewis in one of his books said one time something that really stuck with me. He said that our life is like this line on a piece of paper. And at any given time in our life, we're at a certain point on that line. We can't really see the end of the line either way, but he said in God's perspective, God is outside of you, and he's seeing the whole line. And the reason he knows what you're about to do is because he's seeing from beginning to end in your world. Time is different. It was a great explanation to me because, and getting to this point about this guy, why would God put him in charge and knowing he's this way? In my mind, it's not so much that I believe God put an evil man in a position to do evil, but he allowed an evil man to do what he did. But he worked it all to his glory and good in his plan, because in my opinion, you're not going to win against God's plan.
Yeah.
God began his plan when he began it. It's going to go on regardless of you or me or these other yahoos who do the evil things. But the only way I can understand it, it'll drive me crazy if I try to understand why God would put somebody in a position to do evil. I can't think about it that way. I have to think about that man was evil and he did what he did. He had a choice.
Yeah.
If you don't have choices, then the whole thing doesn't work
have
to
free
me.
will.
It doesn't. None of it works. So I personally don't believe it so much that God. The argument that's come up and debate in my world for about a month is whether or not God puts people in an authoritative position. I believe God creates the authoritative landscape, but we wind up putting, through choices, human choices, we put people in positions.
Yeah.
And I believe that God allows things to unfold really so that we can see what true evil is at some point. But I also believe that his plan will get back on course and go on. That's the only way I can understand these people like we're talking about, because it doesn't make sense to me. It never has. That, the question about why does God
Allow evil.
allow evil?
Yeah.
Well, because he allows humans to choose.
Yeah.
And a lot of humans choose evil things.
And really that our ability to choose is also an ability to choose him.
Exactly,
Right? Which
right.
then there's a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So without that choice, there wouldn't be relationship. It'd be a dictatorship.
Exactly.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
So it doesn't compute to me.
right.
And I personally believe that's a stumbling point in a lot of people who are trying to figure this out, especially
Yeah.
people who are kind of new at all this. It's a stumbling thing to me that kind of gets in their way of understanding a bigger picture.
Yeah.
So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know there are people who argue with me all day long.
I
that-
think you're right. So it's the same argument as why does God let, bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. I
Yeah.
think so
Yeah.
much of it is not God causing them to happen or putting these people in place, but he allows them, because the reality is Satan is the ruler of this world now.
Yeah.
And that's what scripture says. The battles are really between good and evil.
Right.
So it's not really about us. But I'm like you. I don't believe God puts them there or
Right.
causes the bad things. But I think he set the world in motion, and he allows those things to happen. His will is not going to be changed.
No. It's
just
not.
like, go back to Moses, and Moses arguing, I don't want to go because I don't speak well.
Yeah.
Well, he could have made that choice and dug his
not
heels
went.
in the sand and not gone. But somebody else would have gone to Pharaoh, and Moses would have missed that blessing. So that his will and his plan was still going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether Moses got on the train and went with him was I think, I'm like you, still a choice.
And I
as
don't
to
believe
whether
any
he
of what
does
you're
that.
saying is contrary to what the Bible teaches and what it shows.
No.
But it's just hard. It's hard for a lot
Sure.
of people to think when you say God is in control of everything. Well, yeah, he is. I mean, obviously he is. But at the same time, he spits us out on the planet here with a mind of our own.
Yeah.
I think you could say that.
Yeah.
Everybody has a mind of their own. And then he says, you can choose me
Yeah.
or not. So within that not is where evil in the world comes from. It started in the garden. They
what
had
I
a
said.
choice right there.
Right.
The first two
sin
people.
had been brought into it because originally when God did make everything and he put man on the earth, it was perfect. So his will or his plan was a straight line pretty much because there was no sin brought into it. So then when sin got brought into it, that's where everything went.
Yeah.
But you're right,
Wired.
it's a struggle, and people will
Yeah.
go back to the garden.
Yeah.
And I say it hurts my head, is how I explain it.
Yes.
It hurts my head to think that deeply.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just not that deep of a thinker. My faith is a simple faith, is how I explain it. And I'm okay with saying, you know what, God, I'm dumb, and I don't get this, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yep.
I'm okay that I don't understand that. Everybody is not that way, and HD to a degree is not that way, and that's, I think, what makes him good at what he does. And Jason's not that way, and Michael's not. I mean, they dig and dig and dig, and I'm okay with saying I don't get it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
can't
get
wrap
it.
my head
because
around
I
that.
can look at that and
It's
go,
like,
why would you even create the world?
You knew.
Because
If you
you
knew.
knew,
Yeah.
you knew ultimately they were going to
Yeah.
sin. You were going to have to send your son. I mean,
Yeah.
you knew before you ever created. You knew why? Because in my mind, I would have never even done it. It's kind of like looking and saying, I don't want to have children if I knew ahead of time they were going to end up being a drug addict, never accept Christ, and they were going to die and spend
Right.
eternity in hell.
Right.
I would rather not have a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would make that. Why would you do that? But
Well,
he-
it's, so yes, CS's explanation settled that in my mind where I could think about it.
Absolutely.
And not
Yeah.
be driven nuts is that
Yeah.
the reason he knows what I'm about to say right now is because he's already seen
he's already
it.
been there.
He's already
been
seen
there.
the story.
But our minds just can't even wrap
Oh, it's it's
around that.
it's a
His
big
ways are not
thing.
our ways.
My friend, my good friend Diane Penley used to get so aggravated when I would lead classes about predestination. She just
Yeah.
she was just, you could just see it. It was just
Get everybody
swelling
stirred
up.
up.
Yeah. Well, because it.
Yeah.
But I come back to the point that I try to make and defend is that this trips a lot of people up in understanding and getting back to the God's plan is this. It's going
Yep.
Yeah.
and it's staying on track. All the crazies that he creates and invents cause chaos all through it, and all these stories in the Old Testament and all, just the crazies that are out there going against what they know they should be doing. And at some point, I think last week we talked about a guy that got off the trail a little bit, caused trouble. Here again, we're talking about the same thing. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I get too far off of
No,
you?
no, and I'm smiling because I read the exact quote that you said, C.S. Lewis, just
Oh.
the other day.
Yeah, isn't that
Funny,
good?
Small world. Yes, it's very good, and I think, when I say like my brain just wants to explode, well, thank goodness, because if I was worshiping and serving a God that I could wrap my head around,
Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
that
that
would be like
be.
me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it would be
Yeah.
within the confines of what, and I don't want to do that because I've confused myself to pieces.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good thing, but right, it can get us caught up. And I wonder too, sometimes like with Jehu, is it also not God's mercy to give him the opportunity to choose, right?
true.
Like you could choose to finish this well. You could choose to finish it well. I don't know.
So what happened to old Jehu?
So how it kind of ends really is that it tells us that Jehu was not careful to walk in the law of the Lord. So his whole purpose was to kind
Oh,
of
hang on a second.
Uh-oh.
Walking the law of the Lord.
I was quoting scripture.
Well, I know,
It's right
but
there.
oh well, hang on. Okay, I'm sorry. I guess that would be kind of churchy, though, but
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Well,
Sorry,
we're
God.
talking about the Bible.
that was not my intent. But he knew I was going to do that because he's already seen me do it. So.
Yeah.
And I'm still here, so he
Still
must be
here,
okay.
so-
Okay, you're making my head hurt.
I need more coffee.
Okay, Carrie.
I'll never go to bed.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have plenty to think about now, though.
I
But
know.
that C.S. Lewis line and
I know.
Yeah.
That's so yeah.
Crazy
So I
grandma.
have to show you. Well, if we get to it, I'll show you a little quote that I've saved because
Okay.
it really hit me. Anyway, I
he's a
love
pretty
that
smart
line.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really fun to read. He does make my head hurt though too. So you have like what we were talking about before was Israel, right? So you have kind of God's people were kind of divided. You had Israel and then you had Judah, right? And so that was Israel, and then we're gonna shift to Crazy Grandma story, which is Judah, right? So the king of Judah has been killed, and so his mom, Athaliah or something, Athaliah,
Yeah.
is she sees that he's been killed, and so she, being the super caring, wonderful, loving grandmother that she is, decides she's going to kill all his descendants, right? So nobody wants a crazy grandma like that.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
Grandma wants the power.
yeah, she does.
Grandma wants a
And
whole lot of power.
Yeah. And so she takes over for a while. I don't remember how many years, but she does. She takes over. But one awesome chick, which, by the way, all women, I think, should read through the Bible, and you should just pull out every female that's mentioned because it's really pretty cool, some of the stories that you catch. And this is one of those because she takes one of the sons of the king and kind of hides him, right, to protect him from the crazy grandma. And so the
She hides
crazy...
him in the temple, right?
Yeah.
Because she
Yeah,
knew
she
Grandma
had-
would never
Yeah,
go
because
to
Grandma's not going to go
Grandma's
to the
not
temple.
going to church.
Yeah.
We'll hide
No,
him
you're
in
not
church.
going to church.
Crazy grandma
Crazy Grandma
ain't
ain't
over
going to
there.
church.
Yeah. And so then when that baby is 7 years old, the priest kind of raises him up and declares that he's king. So crazy grandma freaks out, right? Because now her power's threatened. So she screams, treason, treason, and basically gets executed. But she's taken through the horse gate. So that's what made me think of it because you talked about
Yeah.
last week, right?
Last week.
Interesting.
Horse
Yes.
gate. Yeah. So she's taken through that and killed. And then you have, Jehoash, right? Or Joash. It's
Joash.
It's like,
I
Joash.
think it's Joash. Is how I would say it.
I'm good with that.
yeah.
that's
It's
the
like
7-year-old.
different.
He's
Yeah.
the-
It's
Yeah, he's
different
the 7-year-old.
here than it is. Yeah. Which sometimes you have in the Bible. They spell names differently.
Yes.
It's the same person, though. So he takes over and he is king. And he's kind of, but he's 7, right? So it's super important, probably, who he's surrounding himself with.
Yeah, sure.
I would say 7-year-old.
And the good
would be
thing is he was having godly counsel
Yeah.
at this point. So
Yeah.
Careful, Coonsy.
I know.
Godly counsel is right on the
Almost
line.
on the verge.
Almost.
Okay, just
Yeah.
want to let you know.
That's your warning. Your warning sign. Just take it and then you can just.
Okay, I'm sorry. It just happens, and
Yeah. So how important do you? That's probably a silly question. How important do you think having the right people around you is? But have you seen that in your own life? Maybe people in your circles, or maybe you yourself. Have you seen how those that are around you affect you?
Well, yeah.
It's
Sure,
very
yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times who you have in your circle, you tend to act like those people in your circle. So it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes we drift off, and God's probably going, oh, here we go again. Let's get you back over.
Back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's very important because, we're always taught keep like-minded people
Yeah.
as your close friends.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's just running through my brain now that we're talking about this because I have really struggled over these scriptures, put
Yes.
it all together in my head. Again, it's a simple brain in there. But we were talking about, did God use evil people to allow his will? But look what's happened since that. So we had Jehu, who was not following God, Jezebel and all that stuff going on. And Jehu became much more concerned about his power than God's holiness and his promotion. And so that wasn't great. But then through that, then you came to this grandma. She was evil and bad. But because of Grandma being evil and bad and killing all of her relatives, then you had this Jim
Yeah.
that took the baby and hid it and, took it to the temple.
Yeah.
And so then when he's 7 and becomes king, you've got the priest. Because as a 7-year-old, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old. Our oldest granddaughter is 6. Well, she is going to do, I mean, she will fight you from time to time about it, but she's pretty much going to do what we tell her to do as her counselor. So that's what he was doing. So look how God has allowed these evil people, but then there's these good people. I mean, it's just all weaving his plan. Now he's under good counsel.
Yeah.
And he's trying to grow the temple and trying to repair it where it's been torn down through all these kings that weren't following God.
Yeah.
So he's trying to do the right thing. It's just neat to put all the pieces together
And see how it all works out.
Yeah, and we get so frustrated about the bad leadership we have at times
Yeah.
and what we would call evil in different situations in our lives. But, it's okay. God's in control.
Yeah, I think the non-evil just need to be ready
Yeah.
at the appropriate time to kind of get things back.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
On
she was
track.
courageous.
Yeah,
She was
that's
risking
a
her
lot,
life.
yeah.
So it wasn't
Yeah.
like she sat back and just,
Oh, look
Yeah.
what's
I'm
happening.
just, we're going to hope this turns out well.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
there's
gonna
gotta
take
be-
this
there's gotta be a
kid
mixture.
I
and-
think there are times that God calls you to action, and I think He called her to action, and she took action and risked her life. Obviously, I mean, and she didn't even get a lot of credit. She's not hardly
No.
mentioned.
One sentence, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she turned.
But her name is in there.
I have a very sobering question to ask y'all. I'd just like to know your opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I just want to know your opinion.
I'm so
Okay.
nervous now.
No,
You're
that's
pausing
okay.
really dramatically.
yeah.
Do you three think that if America keeps going down a path that is going down in some ways, do you think God would destroy the country
Well, He's
if
ultimately.
it got evil enough? Because there's evil in our country. There's evil all over the world.
Yeah,
But in our country, especially these days,
Yeah.
there are evils that are trying to become mainstream. Do you think he would do that? It's just it's not to test any biblical knowledge. I'm just curious what you think.
Dun, dun, dun.
I think, personal opinion, if we, like you said, if we stay on the path that we are, I don't know if God will, per se, destroy the nation, but the United States as a nation may not be. Does that make sense?
I think that's what I'm asking.
Like the name of the United States, I think would be taken away.
I think you're answering what I'm asking. I'm not really picturing in my mind annihilating it in a flame.
But I
Like
mean,
Sodom and
he's
Gomorrah.
done that in the past too.
That's part of what I'm asking is, and I wonder if we think about that. I wonder, we're just folks out here in America making a living, roaming around. But I wonder if we think about that ever.
well,
I mean,
there are
I'll-
some people that do.
Yeah, there's-
but again, I try not to obsess about
I
it
met somebody at
because
Kroger.
God's ultimately in control, and what He chooses to do will be right and will be righteous. And I'm just going to stay following Him, and I will just walk it out however I need to walk it out and trust Him in that. But I do, the little bit of knowledge that I have regarding end times, there is no mention of anything that seems to point to America. We're not a big player.
Right.
Right.
Are we annihilated? I don't know. But we're not a big player. So I don't know if just our power and our influence has been so decreased that we're not an end player in Scripture in the end. Why that is, you can put your own supposing to it, but we're not. There's nothing, the countries that he references, nothing points to America.
Well, they hadn't
as
built
being
the
one
Statue of
them.
Liberty yet when they wrote the scriptures. So
Well, no, they hadn't.
I'm guessing
But
that
I'm pretty sure if God wanted to point to it,
it would have been in there.
it would have been pointed
would have been
to.
into it.
Because
Yeah.
again, he's not constrained by the timeline that we're constrained.
Right.
He would have known
we
that
talked about.
we would get the Statue of Liberty as a gift. I mean, he would know.
It's just a question that
Yeah.
I like to think about myself from time to time. Actually, it kind of puts me on notice in my head a little bit about
Yeah.
Because I do not want to get into being a comfortable Southern Baptist Bible Belt Christian that doesn't understand anything that's going on outside this area.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that because I think that's dangerous. On the other hand, I don't want to become one of those people that, doom and gloom and all that.
There's a balance.
And I'm not certainly not sending Sarah an email about doom and gloom.
Right. Don't send that to
You
her.
might get an interesting
I don't know what I
response
would get
back.
back.
That's a good.
It's just a question because all through the Bible you see that happening.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He takes, lets things go to a certain point, but then it's just like,
Yeah.
you're welcome. Sobering
Sobering thoughts by Michael
sobering
Jackson.
thoughts.
Yeah.
But
I was going through Kroger the other day this week, and there was a gentleman that came up next to me. He had a cart that he was pushing. It was completely empty, and he just engaged me in conversation. He was an older guy, and said he wanted my hair, which I thought was kind of weird.
that's a little weird.
But
Yes.
and then we were talking about groceries and how expensive they were, and I was like, well, you need to put something in your cart, because he's at the grocery store, and he looked at me, he goes, I don't need anything. I'm stocked up at home. I just come here for the exercise. And he started telling me about
That's hilarious.
That is
like
funny.
the end of the world, right? That's
Yeah.
the conversation we had, and I was just like, oh, okay. Well, what's your address? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What's
You're
your
shoving
address?
my head and making a weird
Yeah,
right
maybe
here.
I should
Yeah, it's
go
like,
find some ground beef.
I will confess that sometimes when I'm really down
Yeah.
and depressed, I'll go to Kroger or Walmart and get a shopping cart. And I'll just kind of drive around. I'll bump into people, and they'll turn around. And I'll say, "Excuse me," and they'll say, "You're fine. You're good." It's just it kind of builds my
Need that reassurance.
self-esteem back up. So if I'm in there and I don't have anything in my cart and I bump into you,
That's what's going on.
just say, "You're fine."
If you did that, I would be like, okay.
Yeah, no big deal.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
That is a
It's
sobering
okay.
thought.
Did we get anywhere that close to where you were trying to?
I don't
go?
even remember.
Well, I mean, I think we were
so.
talking about, we need to have wise counsel.
Yes.
We were talking about
Yeah.
that Joash had the
Yeah.
wise counsel of the priest, so we for sure want to make sure we surround ourselves with wise counsel and our children and put them in good places and, take a stand at times. The other part that we, kind of what happens next in the story is just where they're trying to repair the temple, which we talked about, but things weren't going quickly, and I think you kind of referred to that a little bit, that Joash got frustrated because I think the priest, he was telling them what to do, and they were just kind of lollygagging. So he got frustrated and kind of was like, cracking the whip at him. So are there times sometimes when you're tempted, God has told you to do something or asked you to do something, and you start dragging your feet because you aren't really, yeah. So
Not too thrilled
tell
about
us an
doing
instance.
it.
Yeah, is there a time that you could share that, and how you dealt with it, that you knew God was telling you to do something, but you just really were kind of dragging it out, not jumping on it and going, yes, Lord, here we go. You're kind of like, and why?
Yeah, it reminds me of the quote always whenever you ask somebody, and sometimes this is a legitimate answer, but you'll ask them if they'll, maybe step in and help with whatever.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, let me pray about it. Like, I'm going to pray about it. That's the buzzer. You can hit the buzzer for that one because that's a church answer.
That's a church
I
answer.
was just thinking about I'll never say that because I usually know when you ask me.
Yeah, that's like a kind
don't have
of
to
people
pray
use it
about
like
it.
a cop out.
Already have.
In other words,
So-
I'm not going to answer you. I'm going to just hope you forget that you asked me about it.
Well, you just
Exactly.
put a lot of people on notice.
It's the truth, though. They
Well,
do.
They're gonna have to find something else to say to you now.
Yeah.
I always tell him I've already prayed about it, and he said
Right.
you were going to do it.
Yeah.
We already covered that.
God brought you to mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a comment. And you think, like, going back to the story that you talked about, Susan, the chick that rescued Joash, right? She didn't have
had
time
No.
to stop, and she just did what she did, like,
Yeah.
obedient. There was no question, like, I'm gonna do this. And yes,
Yeah.
I mean, she could have lost her life. So
There was no debating.
yeah, no
Yeah.
debating. Like,
Doing this or am I
yeah,
not doing this?
yeah, doing it.
Pretty
I'm doing
easy.
it. I'm all
Yeah.
in. But yeah, I think I'm trying to think of a specific time in my
That's
life.
me.
Oh man, there's a lot of them that I'm just tired.
Right.
Yeah.
But it comes up and you're just tired. But anytime you go ahead and do it anyway, you always feel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it seems like he makes sure you feel good afterwards about doing it. Not you
Yeah.
know, like scoring points, but just that you, I guess respected him enough to kind of fight through your own issue a little bit.
Right.
Which, I don't know, a lot of us are kind of whiny. They're not really issues. We just don't want to do it.
We're lazy.
Well,
I am. Yeah.
lazy and tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, want to be comfortable.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, us folks who aren't preachers' wives or preachers, you know, y'all are coming at us all the time. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that?
Yeah.
I just want to see how y'all reacted if I said that. But
Yes, we agree. We do. And
But you
y'all
have
would
to.
just stand up and volunteer on your own.
We wouldn't
you
have
would
to
have
have
to,
to ask.
yeah.
So we'll just lay that
I
out
saw
there.
that coming when I first
And
started
we
talking
see
about
what
that.
you're totally
That's that part
capable
that's not
of.
like my grandmother.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I
I
think
think-
a lot of people kind of. Well, I mean,
Oh, they'll say, "We pay you to do that." That's my favorite line.
Oh, yeah.
You get
people
paid
do
to
get
that.
tired.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
So
they do. I
it's
think that's
understandable, but
Yeah.
I think the
Jesus
moral
gets
of
tired,
the,
too.
the moral of the story
Yeah,
is
right.
that what if he hadn't have done some of that?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What if
Right.
he stayed home and watched football?
Yeah.
And we need to not drag our feet.
Yeah.
And move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll see when he went from being tired and exhausted or grieving, it always says he had compassion on them. And so it's like all of a sudden he saw to me, I think of him seeing each person, right? And so it wasn't about the task or his energy level. It was about the person in front of him. And when I shift my focus to that, it's a lot easier. Right? There was an instance that I thought of where I had a friend and she asked to go out to coffee, and it was a scenario where I'm introverted, so anytime I spend a lot of time pouring out, I just get really tired, right? And I just need to
Rest.
recoup so that I can be nice to people. No, I'm just kidding. I need to recoup,
Not send
right?
nasty emails.
So I cannot send nasty emails. And so it was one of those where I hadn't gotten a lot of sleep. It was just I had been working really hard and yada yada yada, and I really just wanted to say, you know, how about next week or something. And I just felt God say, Sarah, you need to lean in here and you need to go, right? And I don't always listen, but I did, and then it turned into this thing where she needed to talk through some stuff, and I would have felt horrible if I hadn't gone and then I had found out because it was urgent. It was heavy stuff on her heart, you know? And
Yeah.
but I had to remember her and not how tired I felt.
It's really hard to be a good person sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is hard. Good
Even
coffee
for
makes it
preachers'
easier
wives.
though.
Even for preachers' wives, yes.
Yeah.
So what does all this stuff mean to, say somebody has followed us through this far in, who's not a churchy person, who's not in church all the time? What the heck does any of this right here mean to that person? What does, I mean, because we're always looking for something we can use, you know?
Right. Right.
When you study and all that, you're kind of looking for things you can kind of, well, pre-buzz, apply. But the person, you know, I think a lot about the person that, there are people I know who are on the edge of believing all this, who are curious, who I know, I mean, if we have trouble finding a way to make Second Kings make sense in our world
Yeah.
and look for a application,
Yeah.
then that person must be doubly kind of at some point saying, what the heck does all that have to do with me? Because I'm not a 7-year-old king.
Right.
I'm not killing hundreds of people, but I'm down and I need something. Is there something in all this right here for that person?
I think one thing you can bring out of it is we were talking about who you surround yourself with. I mean, and that can be any of us, whether we're in church or not in church, because I've seen it both ways. If you got to pay attention who's in your bubble kind of thing,
Advice.
because you do. I mean, you're gonna feed off of whoever's, and if you're already dealing with some depression and down feelings and that's who you're keeping with you a lot of times, then it's going to be hard to come out of that. So I think no matter if you're in church or out of church, you've got to kind of really pay attention what kind of company are you keeping. So
That sounds pretty sound.
Yeah.
but
I would say too, if you are that person and you've made it this far, and you hadn't made that other step, you should make that other step. And the reason why is, well, you got to lose. Because I can tell you, you can tell them, you can tell them, you can tell them. A lot of our friends can tell them that until you take that step and buy into this, you're probably not going to fully understand what's waiting for you.
Yeah.
But once you do that, everything changes after that, including the down and the depression. Probably not immediately. I don't know anybody where that had a magic trick wherever,
and you can't. I mean, you're not gonna have happy-go-lucky days all the time after you take that step.
Probably
I mean,
not.
you're still gonna have those moments. We're human. I mean, we go through it. I've gone through it. I mean, and I've it's just gonna happen. But at the same time, it's like that's where you kind of have to get your group. And a lot of times people are afraid to take that next step because they're like, oh, I'm going to have to change all of this. And sometimes once they do, those steps kind of come a little bit easier in changing. And it's like you said, what do they have to lose?
Yeah,
I mean, they take the step, they gain everything. If they don't take the step, they can lose everything.
That's a pretty good comparison right there.
So,
Well, and you and the guys talked about it a few weeks ago. Y'all were talking about a lot of this, and I think they said it well that, I mean, basically you have eternity. Everyone
You have an eternity.
has an eternity.
Yeah.
Our beings are made to live eternally. The choice is your eternity after this world going to be in hell, or is it going to be in heaven? And as a believer and just a logical person, I can't imagine, if you really have any understanding whatsoever about what hell is, that you would make that choice, because you're making a choice. If you don't say yes to Jesus, you're making that choice, even if you're not saying, I want to go to hell, because I can't imagine there are people that do say that, but most people just don't want to change their life.
Anybody that says that does not mean that.
They just don't want to change their life. They want to live like they want to here. They want to live like the world. They want to live in sin, because there is pleasure in sin. That's the reality. There is. But why? That's the choice you're making. There is eternity at stake. You're choosing one or the other. And hell is not a party place. It's not where you're with all your friends. It's not where you're drinking and you've got all kinds of partying going on. Hell is isolation, alone, and zero presence of God. And I just don't think we can wrap our minds around the loneliness and the isolation that is hell.
I don't think so.
Because that's not how the world wants to portray it. And people want to say, well, a loving God is not going to send somebody to hell. He has set things in motion, and this is the way it is. He's not sending you to hell. He's not putting evil people in places. He's working through them and around them to cause his will. They make those choices.
You have the choice, yeah.
And you make that choice as to whether you spend eternity in heaven or hell.
You know what else is really stark about this too is if all this is true, it's true whether you believe it or you don't.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
you're not a very good gambler if you're rolling the dice on that one. Because,
and I think Jason said it in his part of that podcast is, if you choose Christ, then you've led, and I've had this conversation with some of my family members. If I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus and I'm wrong, then here's what I've lost. I've not partied. I've not lived an immoral life. I've tried to live by worldly rules and godly rules and tried to be an upstanding citizen per se. And I have spent a lot of time in church and reading my Bible and prayer. That was pointless. But what else would I have done with it anyway? But if I'm right and you're wrong, whoa.
Yeah, it's just it's pretty stark.
It's huge. So the prayer would be just to get one glimpse of anything that we say on any of these podcasts and make that choice.
I think so. There again, what you got to lose? I mean,
And
you know what
test
I've found in people?
Yeah, test it.
People that don't have a
Yeah.
purpose
Yeah.
in their mind. They don't really have a reason. Once you accept Christ and you do it authentically,
Right.
just by yourself out by a tree, just do it.
Yeah.
Once you do that, it's really strange what happens. I'm not a real mystical, magical minded person, but there's something strange that happens right there. And I believe what happens is you're in a new pursuit all of a sudden because there's a purpose.
Yeah.
Before that, the purpose is whatever little pleasure you get here and there, but as soon as that's over, you got to do that again.
Right.
But Ecclesiastes 3:11, I think, is where it says that God has set eternity in the hearts of man. That, to me, is that hole that they talk about.
Yeah.
There's a hole in everybody
Yeah.
Yep.
that has to be filled, and nothing's going to fill it but that. So, to me, that means God has set that pursuit of Him in you, every human being born. So, when you're born, you don't really understand what that is yet, and then you grow up, and then you get a little older. But when you find this, I believe this is the one that fills that, and then you have a purpose.
Absolutely.
And the change and the turn comes from there because I've had family members that didn't really have that purpose, and they wasted their whole entire life away and did not end really pretty.
Yeah.
But it's because that purpose wasn't there.
Yeah. And I think part of that is, I guess, because I have family members that will say, "Oh, I believe in Jesus," but they don't live a life. And if you would ask them, they would say they're a Christian. They would say they're a believer. But their life shows zero fruit and zero signs that they live any differently from the world. And I'm like, there's a big difference in knowing, having heard,
Yeah. About.
knowing of Jesus,
Yeah.
and knowing Jesus and surrendering. I think surrendering of your life, again, most people don't flip a switch and their life is completely different. There are a few that God does that for them.
Yeah, it
which
happens.
is
I'm not
awesome.
saying it doesn't happen. But
Awesome. But most people, I think you do then have your purpose once you make that decision. But it may take you a while to
To
sort
work-
all
yeah,
that out.
to work
And that's
through
okay.
some stuff.
And you're still going to, it's not like you're going to read the Bible and go, oh, well, this totally makes sense now.
Right.
Because like we said, you read
Yeah.
Kings and you're like, what in the world?
What?
We've been doing this for a while, and it still kind of seems odd at
They
times.
pushed her out the window and the dogs ate her body and they had her.
Yeah.
What are you people
What?
doing? I mean,
Yeah.
you just, but that's okay.
So I wish people that are unsaved, I'm not going to buzz that. It's obviously a churchy phrase, but I wish people that were unsaved could see Christians coming at them, just wanting to help them see that if they would change their mind about what they're here for,
Yeah.
that it could help them from then on, period.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes they see us coming at them like, we're judging you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're wrong. You're wrong, and you got to quit the wrong. I think it's just the opposite. I wish we could find a way to just go to them and tell them that I got an answer for you here.
Yeah.
That's going to help you. I just wish we could find a way to do it. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to do.
Well, I think sometimes they view us, and then they think once they make that step, you have to be perfect.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Got to do it
it's-
first.
It's
And then-
like,
yeah.
and I'll be the first to tell you, I am not perfect. I mean, I mess up every day. Sometimes more
You do.
severely than
You do, Cookie.
others. But it's just
I've
like,
been meaning to talk to you about that.
yeah. But it's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Here they come at her now.
What's up? But I think that's what they think. It's like,
absolutely.
oh,
Well, yeah, it's
well,
what
you're
they think.
perfect. You've got this perfect life.
That's
How
what I
can
thought.
I?
That's
No,
what
no,
I thought before, because I didn't.
Yeah, no.
I
Well,
grew
that's
up in
what you're
church,
trying
but
to
Yeah.
dispel, right? That we're not perfect. We
Oh,
still
well,
burn
no.
the
That's
bread.
why we tell them. Yeah,
Absolutely
we.
not. You should be here when the preachers are here.
Yeah.
I can. Yep. It'd make you feel real good about yourself.
Exactly, right? That's what we do, make people feel better about themselves.
Did we get
That's
where
why
we
we
were
got
trying to
more
get?
views.
in
I think
this?
so.
Yes.
Did we get where we're trying to get?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because this is really tired. Second Kings is really
it's
tiring.
tough.
it is.
We'll see what the men do with it when they jump on it next week.
Oh yeah, they're going
Yes.
to talk about scratching places and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
I know what they're
yay.
going to do. It's always a challenge to hold this one.
Right, hold them together.
Keep the reins on that one.
Yep.
Hey, we'll take a break and rest up for a few days, and then we'll come back and do an exciting round of Innie or Outie. I can't wait.
Let's do it. Woo!
Hey, everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Innie or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Innie or Outie. Here's Mike.
Today on Innie or Outie, well, I don't know. We're going to do the same thing we always do on Innie or Outie, but two different people than last week now have the power. Actually, no. One of you, Sarah, had power last week.
No,
Janet
I had
did.
power
Janet.
last week.
You're all confused.
I don't know what's going on, but it's not me.
You and I had power last week.
You and I had power last week. I have no power this week.
I've never had
And I'm frightened. So
Yeah, there you go.
uh,
And I was wrong last week, so there you go.
we may create a phone a friend. Or something.
Phone a friend.
Phone
Who's going
passer.
first?
I am.
Coonsey is
Yep.
in full control right now.
Yes. All right, so Innie or Outie. There is an army of 700 left-handed men in the Bible.
An army of 700 left-handed men. I think that's in.
I feel like it could be partially true and
Yeah.
then partially not.
Is this Bizarro Day on?
I'm going to say that's probably in. I think.
There's an
Because-
army of.
Well, they did the whole thing about, if they get down and scoop up the water
Yeah,
with their
getting
hand, then
into
they're
those
this,
weird-
and if
yeah.
they lick it up like a dog, then they're that something. And surely there's got to be
Is that
700
exactly?
men
left-handed
left-handed
men. I mean,
So that's a
Yeah.
future Innie or Outie. Lick it up like a dog.
So don't listen to me.
Yeah, you and I were losers
Like a-
last
Yeah, we
week.
were
That-
losers.
Big number.
Just, yeah.
But
7,000.
Maybe they were the ones that he liked.
700.
Told
Oh,
them
700.
700.
To go, like,
An army of
those-
700 left-handed men.
So that very
What were they doing? Can we know what they were doing?
It was an army.
Oh, well, I guess they were fighting then.
Well,
An army of 700 left-handed men.
Yeah.
Do you know what color their hair was?
Was it better to be left-handed to fight with? I don't know.
Probably
Is it?
because if you're left-handed, they're expecting they set battle up. Probably, I think I have read this that your armor and stuff was kind of set for right-handed because that's what most people were.
Really?
then you'd be
There's
weak
something because there's a story where he's
Yes.
left-handed and he stabs him and surprises him because he was left-handed, not
big fat
right-handed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I never heard of that
I can't
before,
tell their
but-
names, but I can't
remember the
There is
story.
a story in the Bible
Something. Yeah, there is.
that he
falls to the
killed him.
lattice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I'm gonna say it's an Innie.
I'll say it's an Innie just for the heck of it.
There you
too.
go.
I
Come
really
on, Michael.
don't
What
know.
are you doing?
Well, I'm I'm dragging it out just a little, so the music will build.
But I'm past my bedtime, so
I know.
That's correct.
I'm gonna have
So,
to keep my eyes
Yes.
open, Michael.
Yeah,
I
drive
can't
home.
drink any more coffee.
well, I'm going
may
to
need
do
to
what
back
I
my
have done in the
car up.
past on
Okay.
Innie or Outie when I have had success.
Oh,
I'm going with two people that. No, I mean,
I was gonna say, wait, you told us you haven't had success, so
well, I haven't had a lot, but you know what? I did until I started teaming up with HD. It's like HD, I say, is my mother from another brother, but
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had some gender issues.
Yeah. It keeps coming
in the
out.
past.
I'm glad you caught that.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an Innie.
Okay. Innie.
Innie.
you're right.
Yes.
is it the Gideon story? Is that
Now, it's in Judges 20:16. It says, among all these soldiers, there were 700 selected troops who were left-handed,
Wow.
each of whom could sling a stone at a hair and not miss.
At a hair?
At a
Wow.
hair.
Left-handed
At a hair.
too.
That's pretty good.
Oh, I thought it was
There you go.
neat because TJ's
Yeah.
left-handed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
when I found
there
that,
you
I was
go.
like, well,
See,
that's
those
a cute
are
little-
tricky.
Well, see, like I know left-handed pitchers are a good thing to have in baseball.
Yeah.
They are?
Because
Oh,
it
yeah,
goes
because
batter
most
off.
batters-
They do, yeah, because
Interesting.
my son-in-law's left-handed.
But they make
pitcher.
left-handed golf clubs
They do. I don't know that it matters in golf. I don't know.
or battle.
It doesn't matter at all.
It
It does matter in battle.
battle.
I think they don't expect
Yeah.
you to come from that direction.
Left-handed golf clubs matter in battle?
Oh.
Oh, in battle, no. I thought you were saying being left-handed in battle matters.
Oh, no, I
don't
was talking
think it
about
matters.
golf.
No.
Now
No.
I'm just picturing a battle with golf
With
clubs.
left-handed golfers. Lefties are coming at.
Yeah. The lefties
Okay.
are coming through the dung gate.
Yes, yes.
Some things you
And
just
they
can't
shrivel.
ever escape.
Shrinkle.
Okay, we're getting late and getting
Yes, we
Side
are.
of their phone.
We're getting slap happy.
But it makes for good
move
tape. Okay, who's
So I have the other innie or outie,
Okay.
and this is, of course, the message translation.
Oh,
I
the
said
message.
translation,
This could
but
go.
that just means
This
the
could have the word
version
elevator in
of
it.
the Bible that's like regular talk, right?
Okay,
All right.
right.
And here's the verse: "Go up, you bald head." Exclamation points are involved. Go up, you bald head.
I think that's in there. I know it talks about bald people.
We did this recently.
Kind of rude to bald people.
Oh, you did that
though.
one recently?
Did you
Yes,
really?
I brought this up recently.
Oh man, I missed that.
Well, I mean,
you
I
think
could
I think like
refrain
you?
and just listen to you
Do
all
you
talk
think
about it.
do I think like you then? Is that what that means?
That's a little
Where are we
bit.
coming
That's a
from?
little
I
terrifying.
mean,
Okay.
you approach that at your own
have
peril.
any other ones?
I do, but I really want to talk about that one.
Well,
'cause it's,
I think it would be interesting to hear you all talk about it anyway. But I will pretend I've never heard that before.
Okay.
be
After you've already
astounded.
told us
Okay.
that you never.
Go up, you baldy. Okay.
Yeah, go up, you baldy.
And this is the message you said.
The message
Okay.
translation. Thank
Which
you.
which could throw anything out there.
Yeah. Yep.
Go up, you baldy.
Bald head. Bald head.
Go up, you bald head.
Can we hear any more of what's before it or after it, or are we
That's
just
all that I copied down.
okay? All right. Well, that's fair because
Yeah.
go up, you bald head.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know they smoked somebody on the rear end in one.
I love that. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, so it's-
Yeah. So I'm thinking they could call somebody a bald.
Smoke the bald head. On
There you go. Smote them on their bald head.
with a cloak.
There you go.
Didn't we
With
talk
their
about
left hand.
smoke?
With their left hand.
With their left
And then they
hand.
shingle.
They strangled.
Yeah, this is.
This is going
We're
downhill.
going, yeah.
Well, your question is that in the Bible?
Is it in the Bible?
I'm gonna
say
it is.
in, yes.
Any. Yep.
Any?
Yeah, it totally is. It's so fun
gonna
though.
I didn't get to answer yet, though.
You were taking too long. I answered for you.
We have to go to bed.
Mute.
You're moving
Wait a
it
minute.
so
This is
long.
a mutiny. This is a mutiny.
That's not why we. That's not why we do the buzzer.
I know. So we were right.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
Isn't that fun? But then ask me what happens after
happens
these
after the baldy
teenage
goes up?
boys yell at the prophet, "Go up, you bald head."
Yes.
Yeah,
Do you
they're picking
remember
on
what
him. Yeah,
happens?
He turns around and does something.
Yeah, he does something to them.
There's two she bears come out and
Yes.
eat all
Oh,
of
that's
them.
right.
He prays, yeah, for God to.
So don't make fun of bald people. That's
Well,
the
Absolutely.
moral of the
a bear
story.
may attack you and kill you.
When I presented that here a while back, the translation, I don't remember which one. I used the hardcore Southern Baptist translation or something, but
Yeah.
it said, go up, you bald head. Go up, you bald head. It repeated it. It's just hilarious. Okay, great. So we got winners today.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. There you
Yeah.
go.
All right. So in the interest of not falling asleep during this program, we're going to take a quick break, come back,
Okay.
sing a hymn in high church fashion,
All right, we're ready.
and call it a day. Thanks. I don't know why I said thanks right there.
You're welcome.
You're talking to your audience.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Innie or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Innie or Outie.
This is a story about what to do on a date. Of course, you may not have a problem about what to do on a date, but Nick, well, he has a real dating problem. If he took Kay out on a date, what would they do? Where would they go?
Hey, what about asking Kay to come to the community center with us on Friday to fix up that scavenger sale?
That's no place to take a girl on a date, is it? I was thinking of calling her. Maybe ask her to the show Friday. Good picture. Wagon train.
Well, hurry up and call her and let's get going.
Call her now? Kay? What if she says no? Oh, hello, Kay?
Oh, hello, Nick.
Say, Kay, next Friday, would you like to see Wagon Train at the movies?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. I suppose you've got your mind made up to see it?
She's already seen it.
Well, ask her about the scavenger sale.
Kay, You wouldn't want to help get the scavenger sale ready at the community center, would you?
Yes, I'd like to very much.
You would? I'll call for you then. Bye. I sure didn't think she'd go to a place like that for a date.
You know, you better think some more, fellow, about what to do on a date.
Now, you may not have thought of this sort of thing as a place to take a date. A group, doing things together. Pretty good idea for a first date. Plenty to do, plenty of people to talk to.
Are you really having a good time?
Of course I am. I'm glad you thought of coming here.
So am I.
Yes, it was a good idea to come here. Wonder if she'd like to go to a baseball game. A date that's not too involved. And there are all sorts of other sports events. Swimming meets, for example. Dates that give you a good chance to get acquainted. And dates that you don't have to worry too much about in advance.
I like to go on bicycle trips, too.
And miniature golf.
Yeah, and weenie roasts and square dances.
And baseball games and taffy pull. I think they're swell.
Say, you like to do lots of things, don't you?
Yes, there are lots of things to do on dates. If you plan them with the other person in mind, and if you really try to make sure each date's a good time. If you do these things, you'll know what to do on your date.
Hey, thanks for sticking around this long if you did. If you didn't, that's just your problem. I mean, you're missing a lot of good stuff. Correct?
Correct.
Yes, lots of awesome
Yes.
stuff.
Awesome
Yes,
stuff.
Awesome stuff.
Including,
Yes.
yeah, you know, after an insane episode of Mike the Baptist, sometimes, well, every time actually, it's good to bring it down
Yes.
and get a little more serious. And what's more serious in church than singing that final hymn at the end of service?
Absolutely.
The altar
Service,
call.
oops.
Does it all the time.
So we're not going to break tradition. We're sticking with it. We're going to stick with it. Meantime, you use the word shrinkle in conversation to help us get that in the dictionary. And we'll continue being traditional churchy people and sing you a hymn
Okay.
at the end of every episode. Today's is
Tearjerker, I'd
it's
say.
a tearjerker. You know, many of the good hymns stir something up inside you that you just can't deny. This is
makes
probably
me-
one of them.
Probably one of
This one makes me sleepless.
Wait a minute, I got
Seattle.
to think about that for a second. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
good.
Yeah.
Makes me sleepless. I'm gonna go, what?
Sleepless in Seattle.
I was thinking like you're gonna let them think about it all night, or well, here
I
you
hope
go.
not.
Sometimes it's hard
To
be a woman, giving all your love to just one man. You'll have bad times, and he'll have good times, doing things that you don't understand. Understatement. But if you love him, you'll forgive him, even though he's hard to understand. And if you love him, oh, be proud of him, 'cause after all, he's just a man. Stand by your man, give him 2 arms to cling to, and something more to come to. When nights are cold and lonely, stand by your man and show the world you love him. Keep giving all the love you can. Stand by your man.
That was lovely.
Nailed it. That's what Susan. That's what Susan
There you
would say.
go.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Thanks for sticking with us. Remember to stand by your man.
There you go. Jesus.
I was just singing the song. I was not meaning the words that I was singing there. Full disclosure.
Disclaimer.
Clarifying.
See you next time. We're just Christians.
Try not to
Not
cuss.
to cuss.
Mike the Baptist.